Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. I am Harrison Graham. Coming up on today's show, I'm going to take a look at what I think the 10 best free agents left on the market for the Bears to sign are. You know, for different teams, there'd be different players. Like, obviously, I'm not going to throw Odell Beckham Jr. on this video because the Bears don't really need a receiver of his caliber. So 10 players that I think the Bears could sign still in NFL free agency. We got to spend some time on Yannick Ngakoue. We've talked about it a lot. I'm going to keep talking about it until he signs with the Bears, hopefully, or another franchise. I think he's the best player in all of free agency still available at this point in time. And I continue to be just surprised how this has gone for him. You're talking about a guy that has 8 or more sacks in all 7 years of his career. And I get it. He's not a great run stopper. He's this and that. Someone asked me, maybe he's not a scheme fit. He's been a 4-3 edge for a lot of his career. Like, you would think he fits the bill exactly for what Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles want. Now, they probably want more complete players, someone who can stop the run as well. But you've signed 2 really good linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards to help stop the run. Ngakoue may not be perfect, but you were dead last in sacks last season. Why is he not a Bear yet? Now, maybe he's holding out for some huge contract, but I don't think he's going to get a huge contract at this point. Like, if you can get him for 1 year, $10 million, 2 years, $20 million, like, pull the trigger, Ryan Poles. Like, let's get him in here. He's still only 27 years old, believe it or not. It's not like he's old. It's not like Calais Campbell, who's 37, and for some reason the Falcons are interested. Shout out Ryan Pace, but I just don't understand why Ngakoue remains unsigned. Now, maybe he's remaining patient. It's not necessarily teams, but there just isn't a lot of buzz around this guy. It's just bizarre to me. He's so productive as a pass rusher year in and year out, yet it doesn't seem like he gets compensated for it. Now, should the Bears sign Yannick Ngakoue, type S for sign or P for pass? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's Bears Now YouTube video, so go ahead and reply with an S for sign or a P for pass. Let your voices be heard. Next up on our Bears free agent targets video, another edge rusher, Frank Clark, who remains available in NFL free agency as well, something we've talked about quite a bit here on Bears Now. Frank Clark is a great playoff player. His production was inconsistent in the regular seasons for the Chiefs over the past 4 years. They traded and paid for him, and he didn't really live up to that contract in the regular season, but he more than lived up to it in the playoffs. 10.5 sacks in 12 playoff games. That first year they won the Super Bowl in 2019, he had 5 sacks in that playoff run. He had 2.5 sacks in this past playoff run. He's a triple P, a proven playoff performer. I would like to bring him to Chicago at the right price. I'd rather have Ngakoue, but Frank Clark is available as well. I'll mention Leonard Floyd also when it comes to edge rushers available on the open market. Now, if you want to talk about a scheme misfit, Floyd could be that. He's been more of a 3-4 guy in his career. But you're telling me that a guy who's had 9 or more sacks the last 3 seasons wouldn't be an upgrade over a Travis Gibson or someone like that? I think he would. He's been really good with the Rams since leaving Chicago after the 2019 season. They cut him for salary cap relief, but he's a really good player. Excellent run stopper. He can rush the passer. He can even dip into coverage every now and then if you need him to. He's less of a schematic fit compared to a Yannick Ngakoue, but I would still very much be open to getting Leonard Floyd in Chicago. Let's go to a different position here. Rock Ya-Sin, the free agent cornerback who was a part of a trade for Yannick Ngakoue. He went to Vegas while Ngakoue went to the Colts. I like Rock Ya-Sin. I think he's the best available corner out there. I still think you need a corner. You've got Jalen Johnson, but he's on the last year of his rookie contract. Kyler Gordon came on strong late in the year last year, but he struggled much of last season as a rookie. Plus, they want to keep him in nickel, and if that's the case, then you don't really have that other outside guy, and I think Rock Ya-Sin could fill that void. Kendall Vildor flashed at times last year, but I don't think he's the answer. Josh Blackwell, I like him, but he's got to show a lot of improvement. So, I think a guy like Rock Ya-Sin on a 1 or 2 year deal could make a lot of sense. Maybe the Bears are eyeing the draft for a CB2. We'll have to wait and see. How about Marcus Peters, who we actually have not talked about here on Chicago Bears Now? I wouldn't mind it on a 1 year deal. Now, I know the Bears are trying to build with high character guys, and at times Peters has been considered I don't want to use certain words, but maybe a bit of an issue in locker rooms. Remember, the Chiefs kind of just moved on from him despite him being very productive because he didn't fit in well in that locker room. And I think that's relevant because Ryan Poles was in that front office at the time. But Marcus Peters, for his career, is a guy who can get takeaways. Now, the last 2 years, he hasn't been quite up to that standard. He missed the 2021 season with an ACL. Last year, did some good things, but wasn't great for Baltimore. But you look at 2020, 4 picks in 14 games. 2019, 5 picks in 14 breakups in 16 games. I don't think you're going to get that production, but a CB2 that can gamble a little bit and make plays on the football, I don't mind that at all with Jalen Johnson as your CB1. So on a 1-year deal, I would be intrigued. I don't think he's a long-term option, but it kind of helps you get through the 2023 season if you want to go elsewhere in the draft. Now pick a cornerback. Who would you rather sign? Type RYS for Rock Ya-Sin or type MP for Marcus Peters. Let me know in the comment section down below which cornerback you would rather sign. Let's keep it rolling here. Poona Ford, the defensive tackle who's drawn some interest from various teams in NFL free agency. You bring him in here then as a one-tech, he'd kind of rotate with Andrew Billings, but he gives you some pass rushing ability as a one-tech bowling ball, 3 sacks last year, had 6 tackles for loss, eats up a lot of blocks, and it's just a grinder. I mean, he's just a work horse there in the middle of that defensive line. Again, I just mentioned it. They did sign Andrew Billings, but you certainly need a lot more on this defensive line, right? Both at edge and at defensive tackle. You've got Justin Jones in there as well. I think he'll be here this season. I don't think they'll cut him. But you sign Poona Ford, you go Billings and Ford rotation at nose tech, at that nose one tech spot. And then, maybe you draft a guy to play 3 tech and Justin Jones becomes a backup as well. I think that certainly could make some sense. Obviously, DeMarcus Walker is going to play some 3 tech too, but you still need bodies on that defensive line. And Poona Ford's a player I would heavily be interested in. Now subscribe today to Chicago Bears Now for the latest news, rumors, live streams every Tuesday, and when big news drops, more coverage as well, Q&A sessions, free agency buzz, draft coverage. We got it all here on the channel, youtube.com/BearsNow. Let's get to 64,000 subs as soon as possible. Isaiah Wynn, as we stay in the trenches but flip sides of the football here. We talked about this a few days ago. I'll talk about it again. I expect the Bears to draft an offensive tackle. But you look at this depth chart right now, I think it's a bit of a dangerous game if you don't at least bring a tackle in here before the draft just to have an option depending on how the draft plays out. Because, look, I do think the Bears will draft an offensive tackle. I do. But Isaiah Wynn is good insurance. He's a guy who can start at right tackle if you need him to. And if you draft a guy that's better, he's your swing tackle. I don't think you're going to have to break the bank for Isaiah Wynn. I think you can get him for $5 million on a 1-year deal, and that can be starter or swing tackle money. So we'll see if that is in the cards for Chicago, but he is definitely a name I would watch. We'll pair Donovan Smith and Cam Fleming together here as they kind of fit the same mold. Smith is a more proven player over a long period of time, but he certainly didn't play that well this past year. He's more of a left tackle, too. Are you moving Braxton Jones to right for Donovan Smith? I don't know. Cam Fleming, the past couple of years, has actually had 2 of the better years of his career. I think this is more of the, cheap vet option of okay, if the guy you draft isn't ready, Cam Fleming can play. If not, he's a versatile backup that can play either tackle spot, could even kick inside for guard. A good OL6, OL7 type for a team. I think that's kind of the type of player getting there. Stopgap option as a starter if you need him to be, so keep that in mind as well. Now pick an offensive tackle. Who would you rather have on this O-line? Type IW for Isaiah Wynn, DS for Donovan Smith, or CF for Cam Fleming. Let us know in the comment section down below. And then a player we talked about on Monday, and that's Jadeveon Clowney, the edge rusher who is a free agent for a 5th straight season. Obviously was with the Browns this past year. Didn't have a great year. There seemed to be some tension between Clowney and the Browns by the end of the season, and they kind of just decided to break that off. But a guy who historically has been a great run stopper, at times a good pass rusher. If you want a more complete edge compared to Yannick Ngakoue, I think Clowney's probably a little bit more complete, but Ngakoue is going to get more pressure and get more sacks than Clowney would get, so take that for what it's worth. I would still rather go Ngakoue, but I certainly wouldn't be mad if Clowney was the answer either, because he would certainly help this defensive line out. What do you guys think? Who should the Bears sign next in NFL free agency? Drop a name down in the comment section below. For me, I'd like to say Yannick Ngakoue, but we'll see how things play out. Who do you guys think the Bears should sign next? Be sure to follow me on social media at HGramNFL on Twitter. Same handle on Instagram. It's at HGramNFL. If you've got any free agency questions or thoughts or mock drafts, whatever you want to send my way, hit me up at HGramNFL.